The US is powerful, Europe is wealthy, South Korea is relentless, and China is desperate to overtake on a bend. So why is it Taiwan that ended up securing the throne of the world's most advanced chip manufacturing? This isn't because the US did Taiwan any special favors. In fact, if given the choice, the US would much rather keep these cutting-edge semiconductor technologies within its own borders, or at least place them in a region with lower geopolitical risks. But the reality is, the world's most advanced chips today can only come from TSMC. And the key to all of this? One man, Morris Chang. Without him, today's iPhones, NVIDIA graphics cards, AI servers, and even the laptops and smartphones you use every day might have turned out completely different. Morris Chang was born in Zhejiang, China, in 1931. At the time, China was in chaos, wars, civil unrest, and an unstable political climate. His family fled from place to place, eventually settling in Hong Kong before moving to the US. In the US, he was first admitted to Harvard, but after a year, he felt something was off and decided to transfer to MIT to study semiconductors, a field that was just beginning to take shape. Then, in 1958, he joined Texas Instruments, one of the most important semiconductor companies in the world at the time. It was like today's young graduates landing jobs at TSMC or Google. He was right at the industry's cutting edge. But Chang wasn't just a brilliant engineer. He had an exceptional ability to spot trends. At the time, the semiconductor industry followed one golden rule. Every chip company had to design and manufacture its own chips. It was as if every writer had to own their own printing press to publish books. It just didn't seem efficient. Morris Chang thought to himself, this doesn't make sense. It's way too inefficient. Then he had an idea. What if there was a company solely dedicated to manufacturing, while other companies focused purely on design? Sounds logical, right? But back then, nobody was doing it, and many in the industry thought this model simply wouldn't work. Chang pitched the idea to Texas Instruments executives, and they immediately shot him down. We're making great money already. Why take the risk? This was a classic example of the innovator's dilemma. Companies that are already successful rarely have the incentive to change their business model. Later, he even tried to become TI's CEO, but the board of directors completely ignored him. At that point, he lost interest and resigned outright. Now, here's the problem. He was already in his 50s. Could he still turn things around? While semi-retired and with nothing much to do, in 1985, the Taiwanese government reached out to him. Mr. Chang, would you be willing to help us develop our semiconductor industry? At the time, Taiwan's semiconductor industry was primarily involved in packaging and testing, mostly as a labor-intensive subcontractor for foreign companies. The government recognized that if Taiwan didn't move up the value chain, it would eventually be overtaken by China. But when Morris Chang arrived, he wasn't just thinking about upgrading an industry. He was about to revolutionize the entire global semiconductor sector. In 1987, TSMC was born, the world's first dedicated chip foundry. The concept seems obvious now, but back then, almost no one believed this business model would survive. Here's the issue. You start a brand new company, but no one believes in your business model. Who's going to place the first order? Chang approached TI, Intel, and IBM, but they all rejected him outright. This concept is too new. We're not interested. Finally, he managed to convince Philips from the Netherlands, which not only invested $58 million, but also provided some crucial technology licenses, giving TSMC its first real boost. But here's a super important detail. At the time, Philips had a lithography machine division, which later became ASML. Yes, that ASML, the only company in the world today capable of producing extreme ultraviolet EUV lithography machines. This early collaboration meant that from the very start, TSMC and ASML were closely aligned, laying the foundation for TSMC's future technological leadership. Why did TSMC change the semiconductor industry? Before TSMC, chip design and manufacturing had to be done by the same company, making it nearly impossible for small firms to enter the industry. But after TSMC introduced its pure-play foundry model, even small startups could design chips and have them manufactured at TSMC. Suddenly, a wave of semiconductor startups emerged, including one called NVIDIA. NVIDIA originally focused on graphics cards, but later realized that GPUs were perfect for AI computing, which propelled them into a leading role in the AI revolution. It's not just Nvidia. Apple, Qualcomm, Google, Amazon, Alibaba, all of them now design their own chips. Why? Because they know TSMC can manufacture them, meaning anyone can be a chip company now. Today, TSMC stands alone at the top. Now, only 2 companies in the world can produce EUV chips, TSMC and Samsung. But since TSMC doesn't design its own chips, it doesn't compete with its customers, making it the go-to choice for every major chip designer. That's why the world's most advanced chips can only come from TSMC. This wasn't because the US nurtured Taiwan. It was because Morris Chang made a bold bet that reshaped the global semiconductor industry.